The next hour tonight.
Where's the money?
The hunt to catch the thug who stabbed 83-year-old Bill Edmonds in his own home.
They're just nasty people, really. They take advantage. They won't take it out altogether.
With new research showing chilling levels of sexual violence amongst children, how can you protect your kids? The gentle giant just doing his job. Doorman Christopher Lombard was murdered in cold blood. His elderly mother is desperate to see justice in her lifetime.
I'm convinced that there is somebody out there that knows what happened that night.
And following last month's special appeal, we'll have the very latest developments live from the Madeleine McCann incident room and hear from Madeleine's parents as they continue to appeal across Europe.
Once again, the general public have shown how supportive they are and how keen they are for us to find Madeleine.
This is Crimewatch. Hello and welcome to Crimewatch. We are live for the next hour with this month's latest crime news and appeals. We're really counting on you to crack urgent cases from all over the UK, so let's see what you can help with. Martin is here with a fresh set of wanted faces.
Thank you, Kirsty. Yes, those on the board tonight include Nicholas Bills, who was caught on camera stealing a diamond ring worth £6 grand from a jeweller's in Shropshire. Give us a ring if you know where he is, and remember, you can press your red button at any time until midnight to have a look at all of these faces one more time. I've also got some shocking CCTV you really do need to see. Who is this thug attacking a woman in Reading? Help us catch him tonight.
And Matthew has the latest look at how cases are solved.
Yes, we have the truly unbelievable story of the British con man who sold fake bomb detectors to war zones. Incredibly, the worthless machines are still being used.
Upon X-ray, within that device, absolutely nothing was found. There were no working components, there were no circuit boards, no wiring, a completely empty shell.
Now, earlier this month, the nation commemorated Britain's servicemen and women. One such veteran was 83-year-old Bill Edmonds from Lancashire. Bill lives a quiet life, alone in the house that he was born in. Hard to believe then that rather than respect and honour what people like Bill have done, someone has attacked and robbed him in his own home.
I've been told you've got money. Where is it? Where's the money?
I was born in the house. Well, there were 3 lads in the front bedroom, and then mother and dad in the one side. Then my sister had the only bedroom, single bedroom at the back.
83-year-old William Edmonds, or Bill as he's known to most, has lived in Leyland in Lancashire all his life.
Only a small place. Everybody was close, you know. It was different to the air now, you know. But everybody seemed to help people.
We all got on together, no problem. Because I think Mum had them all of us under control. Nice neighbourhood, you know, they were really friendly. You could leave your doors open there then.
Apart from 2 years national service with the RAF, this house has been the only home Bill has ever known.
Well, I've been in the bedroom, made the bed, and then gone downstairs.
It was a normal night for Bill. He He watched TV for a while and then started his bedtime routine.
I was just having a wash at that time. You know, there was a knock at the door. Well, I came down and I thought he was next door. Try on the door.
Where's the money?
And he came in and he just shoved me, pushed the door in, and he shoved me back onto the stairs. He was a big fella. I mean, I'm no weedy, like, but he's big.
Where is it? Where?
He dragged me out, got over my feet, and just dragged me into the lounge. He really were just brute.
As Bill tried to fight back, his attacker became even more ferocious.
I was trying to roll him over and me get up top sort of thing. I started using my feet, and that's when he just got the knife out and stuck it in me.
I've been told you've got money. No!
Man!
Where's the money?
No money.
Where
I
is
live on a pension.
I know it was going to be worse if it weren't taking upstairs for money.
Tell me now.
And that's when he put the knife at the back of my neck.
Move it, get up!
Not pushing it in like, but I can feel it being pricked like back of my neck. So that's when I crawled upstairs. Don't upset him, do you? Try not to. Because I think he would have done it. You know, it wouldn't have bothered him, I don't think.
Get up the stairs now, move!
With Bill trapped upstairs, the masked man ransacked the bedrooms looking for money.
Get it! Move!
And he started getting a bit wild with knife, you know, threatening.
Tell me!
But on the dressing table, there must have been about £5 of copper and silver.
Where is it?
And he scraped all that off top. He took all that. I thought, well, that's mean.
His attacker had tormented him for almost 20 minutes. Eventually, Bill gave up and told him where the little money he had was.
So that's my weekly allowance. And looked at it, then he'd gone. Just ran downstairs.
Police emergency. Go ahead, caller.
I've just been attacked in the house. They just broke in and robbed me, really.
What comes to me, you know, is the fact that I got through it. And if it had been an old lady, it had just been, well, it would have been worse. It would have been worse.
It was just horrible, really, to know that it had happened in our family. You know, you don't expect that. But when I found out he'd been knifed, that was frightening.
You know, they're just nasty people, really. They're nasty people. They take advantage. They won't take it out altogether.
Nasty people indeed. I'm joined now by DC Karen Johnson. Such violence as you saw against Bill in his own home, this is somebody who must surely be caught.
Absolutely, and I would appeal to anybody that was in the area on Tuesday, the 1st of October this year, to please come forward. Anyone that was acting suspiciously in the area, if they think that information is, there's nothing vital that they can give us, then it may be crucial to my investigation.
Yeah, I mean, people could think, well, it was nothing really.
Exactly.
They should get in touch. Just remind us about what the attacker was wearing.
We know he's wearing a black coat. It's been down to his knees. He's also been wearing a black balaclava. He's 6 foot tall, stocky build with a local accent, and he has a knife with him.
Yeah. Now, Karen, you said just before we came on air, I don't know if it's one interesting call, a couple of interesting calls, something important that happened earlier this week.
It did. Somebody has rung anonymously to give us some crucial information to this investigation, and I really need that person to please call back in this evening.
OK. For now, thanks very much. I should add, there's a £3,000 Crime Stoppers reward for information leading to an arrest and conviction. If you can help, please do call now. Speak to Karen and her colleagues. They're here to take your calls. 0500 600 600. Let's go to Martin.
Well, we start our Wanted Faces with Stephen Ross. Detectives need to trace this man in connection with the murder of Sean Humphrey in Glasgow at the end of last month. 26-year-old Ross, who has a Glaswegian accent, has a birthmark on his left arm and a large scar on his left wrist. He may also be suffering from an injury to one of his hands. He has links to Blackpool. Ross should not be approached, so if you see him or know where he is, just call 999 immediately. Next is Lerone Boy, also known as Junior Mohammed Balagan. Police urgently need to find him after he escaped from a secure mental health unit in London last month. 27-year-old Boy was jailed for 28 years for murdering a teenager. This CCTV shows Boy running away just moments after he escaped. He has links to the Ilford area of London, a horseshoe-shaped scar on his right cheek, and a gold tooth with a diamond embedded in it. He also has the image of a hand with the words, "Only God can judge," tattooed on his right forearm. There's a reward of up to £15,000 for information leading to his arrest. But he is considered to be dangerous, so if you see him, contact the police straight away. Number 3 is Jigar Sadek. Detectives want to trace the 27-year-old in connection with an incident during which 3 people were injured with a knife in a nightclub in Bournemouth. One of the victims was slashed across the face and needed 50 stitches. Sadek, who has this tattoo, possibly of an angel, on his left hand, is originally from Iraq. He's also dangerous, so don't approach him, just call 999. And lastly for now is Jason Elton John Waller. Yes, that's right, Jason Elton John Waller. He's a convicted paedophile who has broken the terms of his release. 37-year-old Waller, who also uses the names Jason or John Collins and John Collier, has a tattoo of a scroll featuring the name Joanne on his left arm. He's known to live a nomadic lifestyle and often travels around on a bicycle. He has links all over the country, including Devon, Kent, Cardiff, London and Guildford, and he speaks with a West Country accent. Now, all of tonight's faces are on the website, and you can see them again by pressing your red button.
Thanks, Martin. Now it's time for a quick roundup of the latest crime news. Last month, we had the latest on the Madeleine McCann investigation. The 3-year-old vanished, of course, from her holiday apartment in Praia da Luz in Portugal in May of 2007.
As I opened it a bit, I kind of looked into the room. I guess I was looking at Madeleine's bed and I couldn't make her out. And it was literally at that point, the curtains that I say that were closed just kind of whoosh. And then I could see that the window had been pushed right over and the shutters were up. So I kind of knew straight away then that Madeleine had been taken.
Well, following our reconstruction, we had an unprecedented response with the highest number of calls ever to our studio. The next day, the Met Police detectives leading the case travelled to the Netherlands to appeal on the Dutch version of Crimewatch, before moving on to Germany, where they were joined by Madeleine's parents, Kate and Jerry, to appeal on the German equivalent of our show. Well, our cameras were there, and we spoke to them about how they felt it was all going.
From our point of view, and I'm sure for Metropolitan Police, it's been a fantastic response.
And once again, the general public have shown how supportive they are and how keen they are for us to find Madeleine as well, and that gives us great encouragement and hope.
Well, I should tell you that a little later on this evening, I'm going to be speaking live to the lead detective on the case for the very latest developments. Now, this week, a really shocking report has been published on sexual abuse on children by other children. It found perpetrators could be as young as 12 or 13, and the rape of young girls is becoming commonplace in some circles. Well, I'm joined now by Asabi Snake. She is a life coach for the Birmingham-based charity called City United, as well as Anne Longfield, Chief Executive of the charity For Children. Welcome to you both. Your organisation did contribute useful information, to this report that came out this week. Can you tell me what it is precisely that young people are experiencing?
Well, I've seen instances of older men and gang members grooming young women for sexual favours. They pass it off as a friendship, but eventually girls have to offer sex to sustain this friendship. And also I've seen gang members use women to set up other gang members, which results in more gang violence. And these women don't necessarily know what they're getting themselves into. They have a low self-esteem and they feel that these members can offer them protection and guidance.
It's a horror story that you paint, really. To any young girls who are watching who might say, I'm in this community, I'm stuck in this situation, there is no way I can go to the police, what would you say to them? What should they do?
Well, I would say there still is a way out. If you can't go to the police, speak to your parents. If you can't speak to your parents, go to your local youth organisation, speak to the youth workers, speak to the teachers in schools and mentors, because they can signpost you to the right agency. And also, if you can't do it for yourself, do it for the young women out there that can't do it, that are experiencing the same thing.
And so much to talk about. Just briefly, I want to ask you about advice to parents, because I know as a parent, if I was out there watching tonight, I think, well, what are the signs? What do I look out for?
There are things that parents can look out for. We're talking about changes in behaviour, we're talking about unexplained gifts, absences and injuries too. And if you're worried about any of those, then talk to your child about it and ask for help from schools, and there's some really good helplines too.
That's really important. The help is out there and people can access it. You can find out more details of what support and advice is out there, and it is out there, via our website. Here's Martin.
Time now for some crimes caught on camera, starting with a violent assault in Newcastle city centre. A group of 3 people consisting of a couple and a male friend walk past Newcastle train station late on a Sunday night in August last year. Walking just behind them are 3 men. After a few yards, they catch up with the first group. One of the men from the second trio, who's wearing brown trousers and a black short-sleeved shirt, starts talking to one of the men from the first group. He's abusive and offensive about the man's girlfriend. The confrontation continues for a few minutes before the man in the black shirt suddenly punches the victim in the face, breaking his jaw. He also lashed out at the victim's girlfriend and the other man. Minutes later, the attacker is caught on CCTV walking into a nearby nightclub, giving us a nice clear picture of his face. Who is this thug? It's a Friday afternoon in September. A man in a distinctive baseball cap and blue Union flag hoodie walks up to a jeweller's shop in Blackburn in Lancashire. Staff unlock the security door, allowing him in. Inside, he immediately pulls out what looks like a handgun. He holds the door open, allowing a second man wearing a blue cap and grey hoodie to get in. The man in grey then pulls out a hammer and starts smashing the display cabinets before stealing jewellery and more than 30 luxury watches. They both then flee, each heading in a different direction. Quite a distinctive pair. Someone out there knows who they are. Tell us tonight. The early hours of a Saturday morning in August last year. A man wearing a red t-shirt and jeans is wandering around outside an office block in Reading. A few minutes later, a woman approaches. Suddenly, and without reason, the man grabs her round the neck and forces her to the ground, pinning her to the floor. He was only stopped when a passerby intervened. A terrifying and unprovoked attack on a lone woman helped get this man off the streets. Tell us who he is. If you need a second look, all the CCTV you've just seen is on the Crimewatch website. Call and text the numbers on screen if you can help.
Incredibly, around 250,000 people a year go missing in Britain. The vast majority turn up sooner or later, but of course there are many who never do. Luke Durbin was one of them. He was just 19 when he vanished, following a night out with friends in Ipswich back in May of 2006. It was initially treated as a missing persons case, but in 2010, police relaunched the investigation and they now think that he may have been killed. Luke's mother told us what life has been like without her son.
As a little boy, he was very gentle. He loved music. He was a keen guitarist. The point that Luke went missing, I mean, I really thought, you know, he really had found direction in life. You know, he wanted to travel. He just seemed driven. My imagination has become my best friend and my worst enemy. No parent should lose their child, but to lose your child to an unknown entity, it just eats at you.
Well, that was Luke's mother, Nikki. Detective Superintendent John Brocklebank joins me now. John, this is really unusual, isn't it, for somebody to just go missing off the face of the earth? It doesn't happen that often.
It is, Kirsty, yes. It's a mystery, really, albeit we can't rule out that Luke hasn't left of his own volition. Sadly, we think that he may well have been taken and held against his will and possibly unlawfully killed.
Right. Let's take a look at some CCTV. These are last sightings of Luke. Just take me through what it is the viewers are seeing here.
Yeah, Luke had gone out with his friends that night to Zest nightclub, and he'd parted from one of his friends and walked around town. And what you're seeing here is Luke going into Hawk Express taxis in Ipswich, trying to get a lift home. But unfortunately, on this occasion, he couldn't get that. So he leaves and wanders about town a little bit more. What we see next, effectively, is Luke crossing Dogs Head Street towards a bus station.
Right, there
at Dogs Head Street, there he is. And what we really want to know is where did he go from there? It's at that point, that is the last CCTV we have of him.
You think you do have a little bit of information, possibly, about what happened to him in the coming hours and maybe days? Tell us about that.
Yes, we do. We had a couple of sightings of Luke from people who know him, two separate groups, who put him in Woodbridge in two described cars. One's been described as a dark-coloured Renault Megane, right, and another as a dark-coloured BMW. And he's been put in that car with either one or two black men.
And you think there are maybe some questions that this, perfectly nice young boy has maybe fallen in with the wrong crowd. And interestingly, importantly, some activity of somebody using his name and date of birth and stuff. Tell me about that.
Yes, there is a chance that he may have been in some sort of debt, having gotten in with the wrong crowd. And in August of 2007, somebody's used his name and his date of birth in a computer-related fraud. And that email address was used, and it was in the Brixton area of London. Who used that?
OK, for now I'm going to stop you there, running out of time, John. Thank you very much. Clearly a very difficult time for Luke's family, obviously. Well, we can now speak to two people who know, well, I'm afraid, all too well about the pain and suffering felt by those left behind. We're going to talk now to Peter Lawrence, whose daughter Claudia went missing back in 2009. You'll remember she's a chef. And Rachel Elias, whose brother, who's a former band member of the Manic Street Preachers, Richie Edwards, disappeared in 1995. To both of you, thank you very much for taking the time to join us. Rachel, when did you first hear that Richie, well, people thought he'd gone missing?
Well, it'll be 19 years next February Richard is gone. He was due to fly to New York on the 1st of Feb 95, but he checked out of a hotel early and he didn't tell anyone, and he hasn't been seen or heard of since, and almost immediately after that we were notified of his disappearance.
So many people were distressed about it, but nobody more so than the people who were closest to him, you and your surrounding family. Apart from dealing with all of the emotional impact and the turmoil of that, you then have to try and deal with all the terrible practicalities.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, 13 years later we had him declared dead, because while we hope even to this day, we know he's out there somewhere. We don't know whether he's alive or dead, but we want to find him. But in the midst of that, there were practical issues that he left behind that we had to deal with.
Yes, and you are somebody who has been campaigning for something, in fact, that's been introduced. It's called the Presumption of Death Act, and it allows families to start to clear up all those loose ends of people's existence. Peter, I want to come to you now, because you think, yes, that's a good step, but also there should be something called guardianship, which should be introduced for these families in very difficult circumstances.
Yes, there's over 1,000 adults go missing and remain missing every year, and do you think that's cumulative? Because, for example, Claudia's been missing over 4 years. I realised within a few weeks of Claudia disappearing that she has a house, therefore a mortgage, bank accounts with standing orders, insurances for house and car, and there are no laws at all in this country which allow anyone other than the customer to deal with them.
Now, when it comes to the actual examination of the case of Claudia, I believe that the police in the last few weeks, as recently as October, have decided, because of advances in forensics, that they are re-examining this flat that you've just mentioned. Are you optimistic about that?
Yes, of course. You can't be too hopeful, but there must be a reason for the police to send a major forensic team in. They said they were going to be in there 2 weeks. They've now been in there 4, and they announced yesterday that they're going to be in there for a bit longer. Hopefully new techniques will show up something.
We wish the investigation all the best, and I thank you very much for coming and talking about what is obviously a very, very difficult and tender subject. I should tell you at home there is much more on Claudia's case and on Luke Durbin's on our website, along with the numbers to call. If you have any piece of useful information, please do let us know. Matthew.
Right, still to come tonight, a mother's relentless pursuit of justice for her murdered son.
I'm convinced that there is somebody out there that knows what happened that night.
We speak live to DCI Andy Redwood, leading the Madeleine McCann case, for the very latest on his investigation. And I'll have the story of the British businessman who made millions selling fake bomb detectors.
There was no laboratory, it was purely just boxes of plastic components which were stuck together. It was staggering to realise that these devices, which sold initially as a marketing toy to find golf balls, are now being used to try and find explosives.
More wanted faces now, starting with Mahad Aden. Police want to trace the 31-year-old in connection with the attempted murder of a woman in September. The victim was left for dead in a car park after being stabbed in the chest. Aden has links to Coventry. Next is John Mark Maguire, who also goes by the name John O'Sullivan. The 38-year-old is wanted for a recall to prison. He was originally convicted of murder in 1992 when a man died after being tortured and homemade petrol bombs were thrown at him. Maguire, who has links to Cheshire, West Yorkshire, Coventry and North Wales, is a tattoo artist and likes to play the guitar in pubs. He also has a medical condition for which he may have sought treatment. He's considered dangerous, so if you see him or know where he is, call 999 straight away. Number 7 is Arish Mahmood Mohammed. Detectives want to find him after a teenage girl was sexually assaulted in Nottingham last year. The 27-year-old also has links to Hampshire, Cardiff and Doncaster. And finally tonight is Nicholas Bills. This CCTV shows him helping himself to an antique diamond ring worth more than £6,000 from a jeweller's shop in Bridgnorth in Shropshire. Detectives from various police forces want to speak to him about this theft as well as a series of similar offences. 42-year-old Bills has a black country accent and links across the West Midlands, Staffordshire and Gloucester. He should not be approached, so if you see him, just call the police. So call and text on the usual numbers if you recognise any of tonight's faces.
Now let me introduce you to Thelma. She is 83 and has waited until now to give her first ever television interview. She's spoken to Crimewatch because she is determined to see justice in her lifetime for the murder of her son Christopher. This weekend will mark the 17th anniversary of 30-year-old Christopher Lombard's death. He was working as a doorman at a nightclub in Ilford in East London when he was shot 4 times in cold blood.
I had 3 daughters, first of all, and then I had Chris when Jenny was 9.5. Chris was born. He was my only boy as well, and my youngest. He was a gentle giant, did anything for anybody.
This building in the centre of Ilford is a local landmark. It used to be a cinema, it's now an Indian restaurant. But back in the 90s, it was a well-known music venue. And it was on a popular club night in December 1996 that this building became a major crime scene. Christopher Lombard was working on the door of the Island nightclub, along with his friend and boss, Albert St. Hilaire.
Chris was a big lad. He was about 6'4". He was very kind. You know, he wasn't an aggressive person or anything like that. He had a beautiful nature about him.
Hello? How you doing? Listen, you might as well move in.
We looked after one another and protected one another. And we was like a little mini family, basically.
The venue was hosting a music night called Jungle Mania. Clubbers had come from all over the UK. Hundreds of people would have been there.
People was just enjoying the night, really. So the turn of events and what eventually took place was unexpected.
Post. At 3 a.m. the club was full and the doors were shut.
We knew that there was people outside. We couldn't see out properly, because even though the front doors were glass, we couldn't see. So, but then there was a knock. And it was that point, then I heard a shot went off.
The gunman fired 7 bullets in a vertical line through the glass in the door. It was dark outside, but the lights are on inside the club, meaning the door acted like a one-way mirror. People inside couldn't see out, but the gunman could see exactly where he was aiming.
And everyone at that moment started running around, well, trying to get away. My adrenaline was just pumping all over the place, and I was more interested in everyone else's safety.
Christopher was hit twice in the head, as well as in the chest and arm. Albert was shot in the back, the bullet just missing his spine.
My brother and sister-in-law knocked on the door, and she asked me if I had any brandy. And I thought, what's going on? And they told me that Chris shot. Almost killed me.
By complete coincidence, an unmarked police car was out on traffic patrol. The officers weren't aware of the shooting that had just taken place, but their camera captured the seconds immediately after the shots were fired. The gunman and his accomplice escaped in a car parked a short distance from the club.
I grieve for Chris and his family. I would like to think at some point that we can have some closure on it, and we can actually find out who's done this and justice is served. Not so much for me now at this point, but for Chris and his mum.
It's been a very, very long time, but I'm convinced that there is somebody out there that knows what happened that night. And if they have any information about who the person or persons that killed my son, I want them to get in touch with the police immediately. We need some closure. My family and I need closure, definitely.
Well, Detective Inspector Robert Pack from the Metropolitan Police is leading the re-investigation into this case. We saw Thelma there. Christopher's mother says that she desperately needs answers. She deserves answers.
Yes, absolutely. And like Thelma, I'm convinced that people out there know the identity of those suspects responsible for this murder. It was a cold-blooded, ruthless murder, a tantamount to an execution. And I'm sure those people would have talked about it, probably even bragged about it amongst their peer group. And it's those sort of people out there in the community that we're really appealing and urging to contact us tonight.
Yeah, 17 years on. Robert, we do have CCTV. It was taken from inside this unmarked squad car. Let's take a look at that and briefly just tell me what we're seeing.
This shows the two suspects fleeing from the scene. The accomplice runs first and then the shooter follows behind, dressed all in black. They make their way to a parked silver Japanese car just round the corner. The gunman himself is described as a black man who was aged at that time in his late teens, early 20s, 5'10", and wearing dark clothing. Spoke with a London accent, and his accomplice also described as 5'10", late teens, early 20s, and of a Mediterranean complexion. And I should add, Kirsty, that there's a £20,000 reward being offered in relation to this. Right,
that's a lot of money, Robert. Thank you very much for now. It is time, surely, for Thelma to get justice. She deserves it. Please do call the studio now, 0500 600 600 if you can help, or if you prefer you can speak anonymously to Crime Stoppers. They are on 0800 555 111. Now, we talked earlier about, well, really the shocking levels of violence being carried out, sexual violence against children by other children. Now that has highlighted the problem of rape among young people generally, including men. In fact, in many parts of Britain, around 8% of all rapes reported to police are from male victims. But the actual number of cases is likely to be much higher because men find it particularly difficult to report sex crimes. Well, in response, Hertfordshire Police has launched a campaign called Operation Fortitude to encourage men to get help. And DC Gemma Badat from the force is here. Thanks for joining us. You are particularly right now investigating the rape of a young man in Watford. He decided to come forward. Can you give us the details of his case?
That's correct. It was a devastating attack on a male who was on his way home from a night out in Watford on the 22nd of June at approximately 3:30 in the morning. He's made his way along Rivenhall, down towards Rivenhall Park, where he's been approached by two males. One of the males has tried to take his mobile phone, whilst the other one has then forced him to perform a sexual act.
Right, now we have a couple of important bits of CCTV footage of men that you want to talk to.
Yes.
Let's look at the first one. It's at a BP garage where, and just describe what we're seeing.
That's correct. So this is the BP garage on Wigan Hall Road in Watford, and you just see the man who comes into shot who appears to be carrying a shovel.
Now there is one more bit of CCTV. This was taken around 4:30 a.m. Where is it and what are we seeing?
Here at the moment we see the male walk along King Street towards a Tesco Express on the High Street in Watford, and we see two males here. One of them has taken the victim's mobile phone, whilst the other one is trying to force him to hand over cash at the cash machine at Tesco Express.
Okay, and we can get a pretty good look at what they're wearing. People can look on the website to get a more of a detailed look at what they're wearing. Obviously a horrendous ordeal for this young man. Maybe understandably, he just felt he couldn't talk to us in an interview, but his mother wanted to talk to us. Here, her words are voiced by an actor.
My son would never have been walking home in that area if he hadn't have thought he was safe. And to find out that there are people that are around that do this sort of thing and could actually do it again is really, really scary. He wasn't a one-off. It does happen, but lots of people, if it does happen to them, they don't report it. And I think my son has been very, very brave, and I am very, very proud of him to have reported it.
Well, it'd be fair to say that male rape is very rarely talked about, but of course it does happen. The effects can be devastating. Duncan Craig is the founder of Survivors Manchester. He himself is a survivor of rape. It's difficult, we know because we've talked about it for years, very difficult for women to come forward. Do you think it's particularly difficult for men to come forward?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a survivor myself of sexual abuse and rape, and I was assaulted by a member of the local community, and I kept it quiet for about 15 years, and that's to do with the fact of the shame that I carried, that it was my fault. Yeah. And I think that's what most men feel themselves, and it's that shame that I think that we have to get rid of in society. And we have to break down those barriers in order for men to come forward and know that there's help, counselling, EMDR therapy, for people to be able to move on with their lives.
Talking about breaking down barriers, you were telling me that Hollyoaks, very popular for young people, is about to carry a male rape storyline.
Yeah.
For you, that's a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really proud of Hollyoaks and what they're doing. They really are going to be breaking down some barriers. And especially to the audience, to young people. I think it's really important, and I think things like this have to happen to ensure that people can come forward and can get help.
Well, thank you very much
for
speaking to us tonight, and Gemma, thanks to you as well. If you can name those two suspects that we saw in the CCTV in that Watford rape, then please do get in touch with us. It's all the usual numbers, and of course, if you've been a victim of crime, lots of organisations to speak to, including the Victim Support Line. They're on 0845 30 30 900. Over to Martin.
Now, they say the pen is mightier than the sword, and we start our next batch of CCTV with a somewhat indecisive bank robber in Tyneside who seems to agree.
A Friday afternoon in March in Wallsend. A man in a dark hooded jacket walks into a branch of the Nationwide Building Society. He approaches the counter but seems to change his mind and leaves a few seconds later. He's soon back, and this time sporting a lovely striped hat. Again, our nervous robber doesn't hang around. But here he is again. Could it be third time lucky? He's feeling brave, and there's no hat or hood this time. But what he does have is this note, which he presents to the cashier, threatening he has a gun and will shoot her unless she hands over cash. The terrified woman hands over the money and the man leaves. A noteworthy, if somewhat hesitant heist named this reticent robber tonight. Inside a bookie shop in Burton-on-Trent on a Saturday morning in June. The cashier is checking his phone as a customer sits nearby. Suddenly, two oddly dressed men burst in. One squirts pepper spray in the cashier's face and at the customer, while his mate jumps over the counter and empties the tills. They were in and out in a matter of seconds and stole almost £500. Now it's a fair bet someone knows them. Tell us, who are they? Inside a branch of Barclays Bank in the Llandaff area of Cardiff on a Wednesday morning in July last year. A security guard who's making a delivery walks in carrying a cash box. While he's inside, a man wearing jeans, a black padded jacket and a cap hovers near the door, seemingly on his phone. As the security guard brings in another container, the man in the cap lunges at him, trying to grab it. But the would-be robber seems more concerned with covering his face than grabbing the cash. It's a bit late for that. He flees empty-handed, leaving the security guard shocked, but luckily unhurt. Who is this thwarted thief?
If you can help with any of tonight's CCTV, please get in touch in the usual ways. And of course, it's all online.
Now, this man over here is John Kennedy. The father of two was stabbed after a fight at an East London pub back in February of 1997. His case was well known at the time because his brother Jade Jones was in the boy band Damage. No one's ever been convicted for John's murder, but now after a cold case review, detectives are convinced there is every chance of a new breakthrough in the case, and DCI John Sandlin is here. Just remind us first of all what happened on the actual night itself.
Yeah, John had been out with friends in the east, various pubs in the east end of London. About 3 o'clock in the morning, he went to the Railway Arms pub, Sutton Street in Wapping. About 5 o'clock in the morning, some other men entered the pub. One of the men had an altercation with John. John was stabbed. He was taken to hospital, but tragically he died a few hours later.
Terrible. Of course, a complete tragedy for John's family. We have spoken to them about the impact that his death has had on them.
My brother never got the chance to grow up, into the adult that I am. I never got a chance to see that. His children never got a chance to spend those years with him, and he never got a chance to see his grandchildren being born, and that's really difficult.
His life was taken from him at such a young age, and it was difficult for the whole family, for myself, and just real hard time,
I can't even begin to explain the feelings towards the injustice, because that's all we have. That's all we have, is we want justice, because otherwise it's harder to have closure.
16 years on, the hurt is still there, but why are you reinvestigating now?
Well, people's loyalties and consciences change over time, and I'm appealing to those people who were in the pub that night who saw or know what happened to callers. There is a £20,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and prosecution of whoever's responsible for John's stabbing.
OK, DCI Sandon, for now, thank you very much indeed. If you can help, please call or text now, usual numbers, they're on the screen. That's it for now.
Some more news now, starting with the conviction just yesterday of Ang Zhang Du, who we featured several times on the programme. The businessman was found guilty of murdering 4 members of the Ding family in a revenge attack after he lost a legal case against them. Du fled the UK and was captured in Morocco in July of last year. He was sentenced today to a minimum of 40 years in prison.
Now, earlier I updated you on the response to last month's special Madeleine McCann appeal. Well, we can now speak live to DCI Andy Redwood. Of course, he's the lead detective on the case. He joins us from the actual incident room itself in Belgravia in London. Thanks for joining me and taking the time. Can you tell me a little bit about the response and how it's impacting on the investigation?
Well, it's been an absolutely fantastic response, Kirsty. Over 3,500 calls, texts and emails. Some really interesting new information, people in Prada Luz or in the area at the time.
Since the programme last month, the Portuguese police have announced that they are reopening their investigation, and as recently as yesterday, the head of the Met Police said that he thinks there should be a joint investigation. Do you think that's important?
Well, it's very important to us that the case has been reopened, and over the coming weeks and months we are looking to develop further our relationship with the Portuguese police and authorities, and hoping jointly to work together in a focused and determined way to find out what has happened to Madeleine McCann.
Andy, can I just ask you briefly, there was coverage of somebody who was described in the press as a prime suspect who had since died. What can you tell us anything about that?
Well, there are a number of really important lines of inquiry that we are following up at the moment. Lots to do, but this evening, Kirsty, what I'd really like to do is to thank the public for the huge and continuing help that they provided us.
Okay, I'm sure you'll update us as the investigation progresses, and we thank you for taking the time, Andy, to talk to us tonight. Now, on Monday, we once again saw the devastating effect that bombs are still having on the lives of the people of Iraq. Officials say at least 27 people were killed on Monday and dozens injured in a spate of attacks across the country. Detecting these explosives before they kill is obviously a top priority. Well, back in 2006, one British businessman saw the chaos in Iraq as an opportunity to sell a detection device that he claimed could help them find anything from drugs to bombs to even missing people. But as Matthew reveals, his seemingly miraculous device was just too good to be true.
At 11 a.m. on the 19th of August 2009, the streets surrounding the Iraqi Foreign Ministry in Baghdad were thrown into chaos. A massive truck bomb had been driven through security checkpoints and detonated. More than 90 people were murdered and hundreds maimed. Just one example of an unrelenting wave of attacks, which at their peak were claiming around 3,000 lives every single month. The country's government was desperate to find a way of stopping the terrorists. Stepped forward a British businessman who said he had the solution. He was marketing this device, which he claimed could detect anything from car bombs to hand grenades. In 2001, 45-year-old James McCormick had seen a gap in the market following the 9/11 attacks and had begun to develop a new type of bomb detector. It took 5 years, but by 2006 he developed a device he named the ADE 100. McCormick claimed the machine could detect anything from drugs to explosives. But how did it work?
He would get a piece of sample explosive, put it in a jam jar, along with some sticky dots. Over a week, the vapour from the explosives would permeate and mix into the sticker, and it would then start to find explosives.
For the next 3 years, McCormick worked to adapt his product, giving it a glossier look and making even more outlandish claims in his adverts.
It had a proper carry case, it had some programmable cards, he would have a booklet explaining how it would work. He'd offer training programs.
McCormick said the new model, the ADE 651, was being manufactured in high-tech labs in the UK. The devices seemed to have even more impressive detection capabilities, and by 2007, he'd managed to negotiate a major deal with the Iraqi government.
These devices were used throughout Iraq, particularly around Baghdad, on all entrances and exits in and out of the Green Zone. The Green Zone was meant to be the safest area of Iraq during the Troubles. He sold, we believe, in excess of 6,000 units. They ranged in price from £3,000 or £4,000 per unit up to £30,000 per unit. And we believe this netted him at least £38 million worth of sales.
McCormick claimed the detector was powered by static electricity generated by marching on the spot. Unsurprisingly, it wasn't long before some serious doubts were raised about the effectiveness of his machines. As the bombs continued to pass through checkpoints undetected, coalition forces who themselves weren't using the device had serious concerns.
We were contacted by both the British and American military who'd seen the ADE 651 being used. They had them examined, and upon X-ray, within that device, absolutely nothing was found. There were no working components, there were no circuit boards, no wiring, a completely empty shell.
When detectives visited the offices of McCormick's company, ATSC, they were surprised by what they found.
Well, we were expecting a factory production line of these devices in sanitized conditions, but there was no laboratory. It was purely just boxes of plastic components which were stuck together.
But it wasn't the fact that McCormick seemed to be assembling his high-tech product here in a rented office in Somerset that led to his arrest, but this single piece of paper uncovered by police during their search. A receipt for an American gimmick, a novelty golf ball finder costing less than $20 each. It would be the key to unlocking the entire investigation.
This receipt was for 100 golf ball finders, which McCormick had purchased from America.
With your new Gopher golf ball finder, you may never lose a golf ball again.
He would remove the sticker, he'd put his own sticker on it and call it an explosive detector.
It's jaw-dropping that they're just exactly the same.
It was staggering to realise that these devices, which sold initially as a marketing toy to find golf balls, were now being used to try and find explosives.
In 2009, under pressure to prove the doubters wrong, James McCormick held a news conference in Baghdad. Questions were being asked about why, despite numerous security checkpoints and the widespread use of his detectors, bombs were still getting through and killing people.
We have created one tool in a huge toolbox that the Iraqis need.
He was clearly under pressure, and he came up with no plausible reasons as to how these devices worked.
He even held a demonstration purporting to show the detector in action. Officers were astonished by how stage-managed it was.
The actual demonstration was conducted by a soldier who was trying to pick out a hand grenade that was placed among some bottles. Even though the device does find the grenade, this device is used by sleight of hand. If you move the device slightly to the left or to the right, the aerial will swing with gravity, and that's what happens in this case.
So it was ludicrous?
Completely ludicrous. It's almost farcical to believe that this was a proper demonstration. In fact, this is probably the only demonstration that we found in all the investigation that McCormick has ever conducted on these devices.
Presented with the evidence, the cocky con man wasn't about to confess. In fact, he confidently told officers they simply didn't understand his amazing scientific discovery.
However, this new theory, known as nuclear quadruple resonance, has now taken it into another realm.
It's clear towards the end, he was becoming so confused in his own answers, we knew he had no knowledge about how these devices worked. And in fact, how he explained these devices to work just didn't exist, and they breached the laws of physics.
A view backed up by genuine scientists.
Our findings were that the device was completely ineffectual at detecting any kind of contraband. It was clear that he was trying to use science to give this device some kind of cloak of respectability. So he was using scientific terms and scientific ideas, but using them in a completely incorrect way. So in my opinion, that's quite deceitful and dishonest.
Detectives now felt confident they had enough evidence to prosecute McCormick for fraud, but it was also vital that they could completely discredit the device.
If McCormick had been found not guilty, he would be able to go to the world and say, these devices have been tested in a British court of law, and I've been found not guilty, and these devices can be carried on being sold. So there was a lot of pressure for us to ensure that McCormick was convicted, ultimately because these devices were being used in countries where people were being killed and maimed.
In July 2012, McCormick was charged. His trial lasted for 6 weeks. He denied everything, but the jury didn't buy his lies. He was found guilty and sentenced to 10 years.
The con had finally been stopped, but over the years McCormick amassed assets in excess of £12 million, including a property here in Bath worth at least £3 million. Detectives now hope to claw back those ill-gotten gains.
But the devastation this con played a part in can never be reversed.
You said jaw-dropping in that report. That's the phrase, isn't it?
I'm tempted to say you couldn't make it up, but that's exactly what this guy did. It was preposterous. I mean, here it is. The judge said it was completely useless, and it begs the question, does he have blood on his hands? Well, the prosecution said the inescapable conclusion was that Iraqis died because they were used. Now, police looked at manslaughter but felt they had a much better chance of convicting for fraud. He got the maximum, 10 years. Incredibly, he appealed. That was thrown out a fortnight ago. We can hear a little of what was said because appeals are now televised.
The circumstances were quite appalling. The applicant knew precisely what he was doing. He did it for enormous profit, and that conduct simply cannot and will not be tolerated.
Matthew, it's terrifying these things are still being used in part.
They are, despite Iraqi promises to scrap them. They've only done that in 2 provinces. It's a murky picture because millions were spent bribing senior officials in these countries. In Baghdad, the former head of the bomb squad, General al-Jabiri, has been jailed for corruption linked to these contracts. There's a mixture of embarrassment they were taken in and denial. The Iraqi Prime Minister in May was still insisting some of these things actually worked, which is nonsense. So detectives are going after his assets, governments are going after him in the civil courts, so the legal process hasn't finished with James McCormick.
Completely fascinating, Matthew. Thank you very much. Right, time for last quick update from Martin.
Now, if you remember that reconstruction we showed you, that brutal aggravated burglary in Leyland where poor Bill got attacked and stabbed through the hands. Well, we've had lots of calls on this. Several names have been suggested, 2 names of particular interest to the police. Some very kind callers have offered to replace that money, but of course what we really need are names for that suspect.
Right, that's everything for now, but remember, all of tonight's appeals are on our website, of course, and the phone lines are open until midnight tomorrow. We're going to be back again tonight at 10:35 p.m. after the news with the very latest on, I think, well, it's been a very busy night tonight. Viewers in Northern Ireland are going to see us at 11:10. Thanks for calling. Do keep calling. Bye-bye for now.